their opening series against the Boston Red Sox at Yankee Stadium. And it was a very eventful series. The Yankees won the first two games. They did lose the third and final game of the series. And that was something that we did see last year. I remember, when recording the episodes, which I do at the end of the series, aka the same night as the last game of the series, it felt like there were situations where the Yankees failed to sweep. More so maybe in the first half of the season. That was definitely a theme. But this was a mostly positive series. The stars offensively were Anthony Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton, which in some ways, certainly with Stanton, was a carryover from last season, specifically against the Red Sox, but just in general. And then even Anthony Rizzo, let's not forget, as much as he kind of hit a lull, really it was a boom in his early Yankee career. And then, he had COVID, kind of fell off a little bit, but then Rizzo kind of turned it back on a bit and even did homer in the Walker game against the Red Sox. I mean, that's a small thing, but those two, to me, in the Yankees winning the series offensively are the big stories. Rizzo, who would bat third the first two games, and then he actually bat second in the last one. This is going to be definitely an episode where we get into a little bit more than normal, just in kind of picking up from where we left off and talking about, trying to touch on almost everyone on the roster. But really the bullpen was just tremendous. And that is really the main strength of this team. In years past, I'm not talking about 2021 so much, but in years past, it was like, well, the bullpen is amazing. And yes, that was kind of true in terms of, really like the top end guys, but there's so much more so now the depth. They can really go like 7 or 8 deep with legit arms that can help. And we saw that, and that's part of the reason why they went 16 pitchers, 12 hitters. You have, for about the first month of the season, a 28-man roster, which you can do whatever you want with. Once it goes back down to 26, I believe it's a 13-pitcher maximum. So the Yankees went with 16 pitchers and 12 hitters, which is interesting. So you got the backup catcher, Marwin Gonzalez, and then basically whoever is the odd man out of the regular crew. We'll talk about that. But the pitchers, there's a lot of them. And it kind of, as much as I think the Yankees could use a speedy outfielder, a.k.a. like a Tim Locastro, kind of makes sense. Not that I think Locastro's anything special, but he certainly, could be a legit pinch runner. And the Yankees do kind of lack center field options, so he would make some sense. That also reminds me of the fact that Brett Gardner is not on the roster, believe it or not. Do I think that he could find his way onto this year? Yes. I don't think that door is fully closed, but for now he's not on it. But as far as the pitchers go, the Yankees starters did not go deep at all. Part of that, I think, was planned. Part of that was maybe some ineffectiveness. We'll talk about that. But the pitchers, I think everyone got in bullpen-wise, except for, I think, J.P. Sears. And that's probably a name that's not really going to ring a bell for most. It really wouldn't have for me either going into this season. But, guys like Ron Marinaccio, we'll talk about him. He gets in the mix. Clark Schmidt is involved. Everyone really played a big role out of the bullpen. And so you can kind of understand why the roster construction was the way it was, but obviously that's going to have to change at some point. But I think this was a mostly encouraging series. I also kind of feel like it was a lot of the same where, like I said, that bullpen, the pitching comes through, and the offense, a bit touch and go, but I think there's things to be happy about. There's things to be upset about. We're going to really go through just about each player, especially with it being kind of the opening series. I'm not saying that'll be something that happens on every episode. If it naturally happens, it happens. But here, I kind of want to get into it more on an individual level. But the Yanks, really opening day, Cole versus Evaldi, rematch of the wild card game, which was an absolute disaster for Garrett Cole, and it played out that way again. Now, as far as the Yankee lineup was concerned, the odd man out was Labor Torres, which isn't, I guess, that much of a shock. We didn't know who it was going to be. And to be honest, certainly from an offensive standpoint, Aaron Hicks should be the guy that is out. You can make, against righties, against lefties, hey, maybe Joey Gallo. Just saying. But against righties, Hicks, I like the Judge and center, Stanton and right thing because it just allows, someone to go in that DH spot, allows kind of the excess infielders, if you want to call it that, a chance to all play. So the way it worked out was Gleyber didn't play in game 1, Hicks didn't play in game 2. I like that. And then DJ LeMahieu didn't play in game 3. Now, I feel like an injury will eventually happen that will just kind of solve this out. But until that happens, there's going to be a legit player that sits out kind of every day. And so, yeah, that's a work in progress. It's a bit of a strange way they have it going, but that's what it is. But as far as Garrett Cole, it was bad. And he did settle down. It could have been really bad. He luckily did settle down. Otherwise, the Yankees wouldn't have come back and won. But it was just a brutal beginning for Cole as he 4-pitch walks Kike Hernandez. Then Rafael Devers hits an absolute bomb 2-run homer. Devers, we've seen, has destroyed Garrett Cole. Last year, happened a lot. Then Bogarts hits a line drive single off the wall. And then J.D. Martinez with an RBI double. So 4 batters in, 3 runs, and Cole just bad. You can't have that. You can't. And whatever the reason is, that's just unacceptable. Coming off of that Red Sox game last year, same team, rival, all that, and that's what he does. But from there, he settles down, and it stops it at 3-0. And what was really big is in the bottom of the first. So you have Josh Donaldson leading off, and Josh Donaldson would be the hero of this game eventually. But Donaldson leading off is the way they're going. As we've seen DJ LeMahieu lead off for the most part since he's been a Yankee, but they're going to go with Donaldson. And I think it's worth giving it a shot. LeMahieu batting 5th, that's interesting. Behind Stanton, that could be beneficial. I don't mind this. Do I think that eventually things might get to the point where LeMahieu is back in the leadoff? Yeah, I can see that. But for now, it's worth the shot. So Aaron Judge hits a 1-out single in the bottom of the first, and then Anthony Rizzo, a really well-hit 2-run homer off of Evaldi. And so all the bad feeling that was going on at the stadium stops in that moment, as that was a really big Rizzo 2-run homer. It changed the whole feel of that game. So that makes it 3-2. And Cole settles down a bit. Second inning was better. And in the second inning for the Yankees, after a couple of strikeouts, Gallo and Hicks, I really feel like that's a weak part of the lineup. That kind of goes without saying. But Higashioka gets a single, I guess, in some ways continuing his hot hitting. We didn't really see. Higgy's, in the 2 games that he started, didn't really do a whole lot. But defensively, you didn't notice anything wrong. And that's really the key there. There was no defensive issues for Higashioka, and that's what you're hoping for. So Higgy gets a single, and then he would I guess there was a throwing error by Nate Evaldi, which I think led Higashioka to getting to second. It did. Higgy gets in a scoring position for Kiner Falefa, who grounds out. And it was a rough series for Isaiah Kiner Falefa. The bat's one thing. And with the bat, it wasn't great. I would say that it was a bit of a struggle, but really the bigger issue was defensively. It was shaky, very shaky. What I will say is this also, though. Let's maybe just chalk it up to nerves. Going from Texas to this situation, being the shortstop. Look, I use Didi as an example, Gregorius, who obviously that was replacing Derek Jeter, which was a whole other thing. But Didi really, he struggled very much so Defensively, we saw the type of defense player he was, but it was bad for him. So I think with Kiner Falefa, at least give him some time. But to be fair, this was not a good series for him. You are holding your breath when the ball is hit his way. And that's not what you want, especially with Gleyber Torres no longer being the starting shortstop, and you bring Kiner Falefa in, you want some shortstop stability, and definitely not a part. I definitely would not giving a passing grade after this series. So anyway, the Yankees are still down 3-2, and in the third, Cole gets a 1-2-3 inning. Evaldi gets one himself in the bottom of the third, so we head to the fourth, and it's a 3-2 game. And Cole is able to escape after a leadoff single by Verdugo. Alex Verdugo, for me, was easily one of the best Red Sox players, maybe the best. I haven't checked the Red Sox stats, but it just felt that way. Verdugo was fantastic for Boston. The Yankees really could not get him out, and he was good in the field. But Cole survives that. And he ends up only pitching the 4 innings. He was at 68 pitches. That first inning really worked him hard, and that was disappointing. Cole only going 4 was really disappointing. Maybe it was for the best, although he was settling down. Would have been nice to get him through 5, especially with this game going to 11 innings, and the Yankees starters not really going deep, but I digress. Giancarlo Stanton, just a line drive home run in the bottom of the fourth to tie it up at 3. Definitely Yankee Stadium type home run. Impressive nonetheless, though, in the fact of just the way not many guys could do that, where he just hits a line drive and it just goes out. And the Yankees tied up right there. Then LeMahieu walks, and then you have your Gallo-Hicks strikeout pair again. And then Higashioka is able to reach on an error, and then Kiner Falefa is in a runner's score position spot again and grounds out again. So it's 3-3. And we go to the 5th, and Chad Green is able to pitch a scoreless 5th inning. So Green gets in early and gets the job done. And then in the 5th, Josh Donaldson singles, gets his first hit as a Yank. And then after Judge strikes out, Anthony Rizzo's hit by a pitch. And at the time, it looked bad. It looked like it was it hit him on the hand. Didn't look good, but no worse for wear. He's fine. So they kind of dodged the bullet there. And then Stanton strikes out, and LeMahieu lines out. It was a nice play by Verdugo. LeMahieu almost is able to give the Yankees the lead, but Verdugo makes a nice play. So we head to the 6th. And, just keeping in mind, the first game and the third game is kind of where more of you want to get to the nitty-gritty of the play-by-play. A lot going on, to me, in games 1 and 3 that need to be dissected. Clay Holmes comes in the 6th. And Clay Holmes, kind of telling, and they're different style pitchers. Clay Holmes more nasty against right-handers than Chad Green is, but Clay Holmes comes in the 6th against Bogarts, JD Martinez, Alex Verdugo. So, and that also happened in the second game. So Clay Holmes is definitely going to be a very relied upon piece, and deservedly so after a very good finish after he was traded for the Pirates last season. But Bogarts, it's a bit of a lucky double down the line. Gallo could have played it better off the wall. We're used to Brett Gardner being out there, but anyway, they're not a huge deal. But JD Martinez, the next batter, does a nice piece of hitting, gets Bogarts over to 3rd. And this is where I would have pitched carefully to Verdugo. They didn't, and he gets an RBI. The infield's drawn in, and Verdugo gets an RBI single. What's interesting in thinking about this, the Red Sox took a 4-3 lead in this game in the 6th, just as they did in this last game. That they held that lead, won it. So very interesting how all the games were kind of similar, especially the 1st and 3rd. But I didn't agree with this. I think with Trevor Story on deck, who can strike out, who you set up the double play by walking Verdugo, you set up the 1st and 3rd double play. It wasn't talked about, but I didn't agree with that, and it didn't work out. But luckily after that, Story hits the ground ball. Now, this was a play I remember where Kiner Falefa bobbles it a bit. This could have been a double play, but it wasn't. But luckily, after Dahlbeck singles, well, this inning did get dicey, because you can't assume the double play, Kiner Falefa wasn't given an error. So after Dahlbeck singles, they take Holmes out. Miguel Castro, former Met, comes in. And this is a guy, it was risky because he walks a lot of hitters. And it's a 4-pitch walk to Jackie Bradley. And then I believe he threw a ball to Christian Vasquez, and then he settled back in. If you think about it, 1-run game, bases loaded, but he's able to strike out Vasquez, and that was really big. He was able to rally back. So it's 4-3, and good old Garrett Whitlock comes in for the Red Sox. We know about Garrett Whitlock. The Red Sox got him in the Rule 5 draft from the Yankees. The Yankees did not protect him last season, and Whitlock has gone on to do great things for the Boston Red Sox. And he strikes at the side with a Hicks single sandwich in between. So Gallo, Higashioka, and Connor Falefa strike out. And so we head to the 7th, where we see Jonathan Loaisiga. And Loaisiga pitches a 1-2-3 7th. And Whitlock does the same in his bottom half of the inning. And then Martinez lines out, and they take Loaisiga out. So Loaisiga does the job. Wandy Peralta comes in. He gets his 2 outs. So the bullpen really doing their thing and kind of piecing it together, other than the unfortunate Clay Holmes inning, which honestly I don't blame him that much for. So we head to the bottom of the 8th, and Giancarlo Stanton strikes out looking. And then the big home run happens, the big tying home run by DJ LeMahieu off of Garrett Whitlock. This to right center field. This is the LeMahieu that you saw in 19 and 20, not 21, driving a ball out of the park, opposite field, right center field. Very impressive, and LeMahieu was very pumped up. You don't see LeMahieu show much emotion, but he was excited, and the Yankees tied up at 4. The Red Sox bring in lefty Matt Strahm. Gallo walks. Hicks strikes out. Again, I'm very frustrated with Aaron Hicks. We know what he is, but it's just I can't stand it. I really can't. And then Higashioka pops out. So we head to the 9th tie game, and Chapman comes in and pitches a 1-2-3 inning, gets a couple of strikeouts, looked very sharp. I thought Chapman looked good. Bottom of the 9th, Hansel Robles is on, and you get a 2-out double by Aaron Judge. Anthony Rizzo is interestingly intentionally walked, which is kind of funny at the time I thought it was interesting with Stanton doing what he does against the Red Sox, but it does work out for Boston as Robles does get Stanton to strike out. So we head to extra innings, and the real hero for me in this game, almost more than anyone, you could argue, was Michael King. Michael King, now the ghost runner is back, so runner on second, and he gets Kike Hernandez to strike out. Then they intentionally walk Devers, which is an interesting move to do in the top half of the inning because it's okay to give up a run. To give up 2 runs is where it gets dangerous. Xander Bogaerts gets an RBI single, gives the Red Sox a 5-4 lead, but then JD Martinez grounds a double play. So it's 5-4, and you have a runner on second, so you have a chance. What's interesting is that the Yankees would pinch run Marlon Gonzalez for Giancarlo Stanton, which I had a feeling it might happen. I wasn't surprised, but I didn't necessarily agree with it. That spot could have come back up. Stanton's, that is. It didn't. But down by 1, it's interesting. I don't know if I would have been more apt to weirdly do it if you were tied. Because if you're down by 1, at best, in that spot, you're tying it up, which means more at best later on. Anyway, LeMahieu gets hit by a pitch. So it's first and second. And at this point, Jake Diekman's in the game for the Red Sox. And Diekman looked really good in game 3. But Joey Gallo, and for me, expectations are low for him, so I'll give this some praise. Gallo grounds out and gets the runners over, whereas he could have, he strikes out a lot. I think he struck out maybe 3 times in that game earlier. Hits the ground ball to move him over to second and third. This is where Alex Cora goes wrong now, is he intentionally walks Aaron Hicks. I would not have done that if I'm Alex Cora. I would have went after him. I would have at least tried to see what happened. Diekman versus Hicks. But they walk him, and they bring in Ryan Brazier. And this is where Gleyber Torres pinch hits for Kyle Higashioka. At the time, I was unsure. I knew that Torres, I think I preferred this move at the time, but I was wondering what would happen. Torres comes in, and he gets the key sac fly to tie it up. Good job by Gleyber coming off the bench, and Marlon Gonzalez scores, and the Yankees tie it up, and then Connor Falefa with a chance to be the hero. And it was a good at-bat. I'll give him that. Strikes out. It's a rough game for Connor Falefa. So we head to the 11th, and this is where Michael King really shines. King, back out there, strikes out Verdugo, strikes out Story, and gets Dahlbeck to ground out. So there, Boston doesn't score at all. And so the Yankees are a runner on second away from winning it. The Red Sox bring in Cutter Crawford to face Josh Donaldson with Kiner Falefa on second. So the two guys involved in the Twins trade. And it is a Josh Donaldson RBI single in his first game as a Yankee, walk-off. So Yankees win it 6-5, gutsy comeback. And nice to see Donaldson be the hero in this one. Like I said, in his first game as a Yankee. So a very exciting win and really nice to win the first game, especially against Boston in that fashion. Let's head straight to game two. Game two, Luis Severino, his first start since 2019 ALCS Game 3. I was actually at that game. The Yankees lost. Garrett Cole was the pitcher for the Astros in that one, actually. But we did see Severino last year in the bullpen towards the end of the year look good, and I thought Severino looked really good. Like, forget about the stat line. Severino, I thought, looked very good. Let's also remember, in terms of the lineup, Hicks was out. So you have the jumbo package in the outfield. Gallo in left, Judge in center, Stanton in right. And in the first, this was a very impressive inning for Severino. Gets a couple of strikeouts, including Devers and Bogarts. On the mound for the Red Sox was Nick Pivetta. Yankees hit him well. Didn't have much to show for it, but I thought, they only had 4 hits on the day, but Pivetta got hit pretty hard. Second inning, JD Martinez gets a single. It really should have been an error on Kiner Falefa, in my opinion. Or at the very least, it's a play that he could have made, and JD Martinez isn't a fast runner. So already Severino put in a little bit of a tough situation. Next batter, Alex Verdugo, 2-run homer. Now, this would be the only 2 runs that Boston would score on the day, but Verdugo makes it 2-0. And Severino was able, Story gets a double on a play that Joey Gallo maybe could have made. It was a tough play, but I don't know. Anyway, luckily, Severino is able to get out of that. Gets 3 groundouts. And so Pivetta, is kind of working his way through. Severino pitches a good third. Pivetta is throwing up some scoreless innings. And then the fourth, I don't know why they brought Severino out to start the fourth. He had some shoulder problems towards the end of spring. He had thrown a lot of pitches at that point. Verdugo homered off him. For some reason, Severino started the fourth. Didn't understand it. Verdugo gets a single, and then Severino's out. And they bring in Ron Marinaccio, local kid, Yankee draft pick, late round draft pick. He comes in, makes his debut, and you can tell he was nervous. 4-pitch walk to Trevor Story. Then he throws the ball to Bobby Dahlbeck, and then Rizzo and Higashioka comfort him. I'm not sure what they said, but it worked. He strikes out Dahlbeck, and then Jackie Bradley Jr. hits a pretty hard ground ball to Gleyber Torres, and Torres makes a really nice play and gets the force out at second. That was big. Give Gleyber credit. That was a very good play. And then Marinaccio strikes out Vasquez looking. So Ron Marinaccio really gets the job done. And then the Yankees come through in the next inning. Josh Donaldson singles. Judge hits a really deep fly ball that Kike Hernandez makes a great play on. Donaldson moves to second. Good base running by Donaldson. And then Rizzo does what he did in game 1. Hits a 2-run homer. And this one ties it up at 2. So great job by Anthony Rizzo. And so the Yankees tied up. And they almost they came close to maybe taking the lead in that inning. Couple of walks, LeMahieu and Gallo, but then Gleyber pops out. So we move to the 5th, and Miguel Castro comes in and does a good job. Pitches a scoreless inning. Pivetta's still in there, and he pitches pretty well in the bottom of the 5th. Lucas Licky pitches the top of the 6th, scoreless inning. And you're going to hear that from me a lot. A lot of these, it's a different pitcher, scoreless inning for the Yankees bullpen. And Pivetta's still in there in the bottom of the 6th. Judge walks to lead it off in the 6th. Rizzo pops out, and then Giancarlo Stanton hits a mammoth 2-run homer over 430 feet. Second home run in 2, home run in the first game, home run in the second, just like Rizzo. And Stanton gives the Yankees a 4-2 lead. That would be a lead that they would keep. Pivetta would not finish the inning. And then in the 7th, Chad Green comes on, pitches a 1-2-3 inning. In the 8th, Clay Holmes, 2-out walk to Verdugo, but other than that, gets the job done. Good inning by Clay Holmes after what one could argue was a struggle in game 1. We head to the ninth. Aroldis Chapman, back-to-back days, just as we saw with Green and with Holmes the innings previous. Chapman gets a strikeout of Dahlbeck, but then Christian Arroyo reaches on a throwing error by Connor Falefa. Rizzo could have made the play, but the error goes to Connor Falefa, and it just goes to show it was rough for him. But he gets his redemption. He is able to get the final ground out by Kike Hernandez, and the Yankees win it 4-2. So another comeback win by the Yanks, and they are able to win the first two games of the series. We move to the last game, and it would be Jordan Montgomery versus Tanner Houck. And Houck has given the Yankees problems, but the Yankees were able to get to him a bit in this one. But it was the same type of script where the Yankees fall behind. DJ LeMahieu would not play in this game. And so Hicks is back in the lineup. And Rizzo would bat second in this one. So some small tweaks. Higashioka was out. Trevino makes his debut for the Yanks starting in this one. So the first inning was a bit of a rough one for Montgomery, a little unlucky as well, and it got a little bit scary too. So Montgomery gives up a bloop single to Devers. It wasn't an easy play for Connor Falefa, but it's a play that maybe someone else makes. Then Xander Bogaerts rips one at Jordan Montgomery, and it looked pretty bad. It got him like in the upper leg area, and Montgomery was writhing in pain. It did not look good, but he was able to shake it off, and he finished the inning, and basically it was kind of a normal outing for him. So what looked to be something that could be a problem ends up not. But unfortunately, like that Bogaerts, if that doesn't hit Montgomery, that could be a double play. So it was a bit unlucky, and it does come back to bite them. JD Martinez gets an RBI double, the next batter. And so it's 1-0 Red Sox. Then he's ahead of Dahlbeck 0-2, and he hits him. So now you are looking at a situation where the Red Sox have bases loaded, one out, and Christian Arroyo gets a sac fly. Gives the Red Sox a 2-0 lead. The bottom of the first, the Yankees had a chance against Houck. Rizzo gets a walk with one out. Judge singles first and third, and then Stanton's up. So you really like that situation. Unfortunately, he lines that to second. Hit off the end of the bat. Unfortunate. Doesn't work out. Judge steals second, and then Gallo walks. So bases loaded for Gleyber Torres, and he flies out. And for Gleyber, I think that it was a mostly good series for Gleyber in his two starts, and he gets the sac fly in game one. We'll still see. I don't know if we're ever going to see the Gleyber that we saw a few years ago, but encouraging series for Gleyber. I would put him in the positive category. So second inning, Montgomery does better. But Houck, at this point is kind of moving along. Montgomery pitches a 1-2-3 third, and then the Yankees finally do get a run across in the bottom of the third. Rizzo walks. Rizzo was getting on base just at a ridiculous clip this series. Then Judge singles. And then Giancarlo Stanton this time gets the RBI single, makes it 2-1. And then Gallo flies out, but he hit the ball hard. To be fair, Gallo hit the ball hard there. And so then Gleyber Torres gets hit by a pitch. So you got bases loaded, one out for Aaron Hicks. And he grounds into a double play. I don't know what to say. You don't want to be overreactionary with the first series, but we've just seen this with Hicks time and time again. This was Aaron Hicks. This is what he is. This is not what it should be. Aaron Hicks should not be the starting center fielder for this team. I'm sorry. It just should not be that way. So Hicks double play in a big spot there. In the fourth, Montgomery strikes out Arroyo, but it goes past Trevino, and Arroyo reaches. For me, it was ruled a wild pitch. I don't know. I'd like to have thought that Trevino could have stopped it, and it does come back to bite. So a little bit of some shaky defense in spots for the Yankees in this series. I still think that's a plus for them, but it was a little bit shaky in different situations. Then Verdugo singles, then Plawecki grounds out, and the runners move over. Montgomery's now out, and Clark Schmidt comes into a tough spot. They brought Schmidt into a tough situation, and Jonathan Aruz is able to get a sac fly, and that makes it 3-1. And then we head to the bottom of the fourth in a 3-1 game. Connor Falefa with a leadoff double. Then Trevino singles. Connor Falefa had to stay at second. He wasn't sure if it was going to be caught or not. So it's first and second. Then Donaldson with a pretty bad at-bat. Donaldson strikes out looking. Not a great at-bat for Josh Donaldson. Houck's not out of the game. They bring Ryan Brazier in. It's a wild pitch. So it's second and third, one out for Rizzo, and Rizzo delivers. A 2-run single. Anthony Rizzo really was just amazing in this series. Ties it up at 3. Then, unfortunately, Judge grounds a double play. So it's a tie game going to the 5th, and Clark Schmidt pitches a 1-2-3 5th inning. Cutter Crawford comes in for Ryan Brazier, and this was a key inning as well. Stanton singles, Gallo flies out, but hit the ball well. Then Torres doubles, a nice opposite field double. Second and third, one out for who? Aaron Hicks. And unfortunately, it was a 3-0 count, and Crawford threw a strike on 3-1, and then on the 3-1 pitch, Hicks pops out into foul territory to Devers. Aaron Hicks is, to me, the main GOAT of this game. The loss, to me, falls mainly on Aaron Hicks. And then Kiner-Falefa strikes out on a questionable check swing. I don't know if he went around. They said he did. And so that ends that inning. And it stays tied. And what do you know? What ends up being the game-winning home run in the next inning, Bobby Dahlbeck, opposite field home run off of Schmidt, gives the Red Sox a 4-3 lead. Other than that, Schmidt really did a pretty good job. In the bottom of the 6th, you get a 1-out single by Donaldson, but that's all that would really come of that inning. Lucas Licky, back-to-back days, he pitched a good 7th inning, a 1-2-3 7th. Then Giancarlo Stanton gets leadoff single. That was his 3rd hit of the night. He was just really, really locked in. It was a great series for him. And the Red Sox bring in lefty Matt Strahm. Gallo lines out. So to be fair, Gallo hitting into some tough luck. And then Glaber lines out to right. And then Aaron Hicks grounds out because, well, it's Aaron Hicks. So we go to the 8th, and Jonathan Loaisiga, a couple of walks, but he's able to come away with it out of it unscathed. And then Hansel Robles comes in, kind of for left leadoff walk. So, and he's a speedy guy, so you like that. And then DJ LeMahieu pinch hits for Trevino, but LeMahieu lines out to Bradley Jr. So a bit of tough luck there. And then Donaldson lines out to Verdugo. So Hansel Robles was getting hit really hard. And it's too bad because this was a spot where they really could have done something with a good part of the order coming up. And then Rizzo pops out. So we head to the 9th, Yanks down 1. Wandy Peralta pitches the 9th inning. Leadoff walk to Verdugo because Alex Verdugo just gets on base against the Yanks specifically. But then Peralta is able to get the next 3 guys out. So we head to the bottom of the 9th, Jake Diekman, the lefty, coming on for the save. And Aaron Judge works a really, really nice at-bat. And it went to 11 pitches, and eventually Diekman gets the better of him. Judge strikes out. And that kind of took the energy out of the stadium. And then Giancarlo Stanton strikes out, swinging, in a not-so-good at-bat. And then Gallo, lefty, tough match versus Diekman. What does Gallo do? Strikes out. So Diekman strikes at the side. The Red Sox salvaged the last game, but the Yanks win the series. It was a fun one. Would have loved the sweep, but just goes to show it's tough. The only team in all the series that swept, and this kind of makes sense, was the Rays over the Orioles. Last year, the Rays dominated the Orioles. I think the Rays have now won maybe 15 or so straight against Baltimore. So it goes to show it's tough. But now the Yankees will they'll stay home. And it's a 4-game set with the Blue Jays. This will be very interesting. Toronto coming off a series win against Texas in Toronto. Yankees will be home in this series, and we'll see Jameson Taillon, Nestor Cortez, and then Cole again and Severino again. This should be I think Toronto, one could argue that Toronto could be maybe the toughest test. Give Boston, you got to respect Boston, you got to respect Tampa, but Toronto, that could be the team that really you're looking at. And Toronto played very well at Yankee Stadium last season, so I'm very curious to see what happens. If the Yankees split these 4 games, you kind of just live with it. If they win 3-4, you're really, really pumped. So hopefully the Yankees can win another series, but so far, so good. And we'll just have to see what happens as the Yankees keep it in the AL East, head from a series win against the Red Sox, and now another AL East team comes to town, and the Toronto Blue Jays, and we shall see how that 4-game series goes.